Okay, the light is really weird and I don't know what it's focused on in this video. I'm not sure about this. Anyway, whatever. So, hi, it's Sarah here. I have been incredibly remiss and have not filmed my February wrap-up. So I'm going to rectify that right now. I believe I read 12 books in February, which is absolutely ridiculous if you ask me, but okay, I'll take it. Completely take it. I read mostly from the library, and then I got the flu and I read like a chick lit cozy mystery sort of mashup sort of book that was on my Kindle like for 4 years, and then promptly binge read the rest of the series. Some of which I finished in March, so you won't hear about those ones. All the books that I read in the beginning of the month were library books, and they are back at the library, so forgive me for not having pictures. So the first thing I read was Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is a young adult science fiction novel that was being shown as like Indiana Jones sort of deal. This is kind of a dystopian, I would say, because Earth is not doing very well, and that's the basis of this book, although these kids are never on Earth during the book. But a message is received from this alien race with all these clues and things that, you know, if they get to the center of these clues, there's going to be technology there that potentially could save the human race. So these two people end up meeting on the planet, each for different reasons, and this is the book. They start and they, you know, of course, are incredibly smart and wonderful and all of that. The first half of this book was incredibly repetitive, and I keep forgetting that this is meant for a younger audience than what I am, because there's just like a lot of repetitiveness that I already get because I've been reading forever, so I pay attention to details, and I don't need that repeated and repeated, but I can understand that it's meant for like a younger audience, so that I can forgive. So it was a bit long in the beginning, as far as I'm concerned. The second half was a whole lot of fun, but this book really, really, really pissed me off in a way, because it was a cliffhanger. Add that with what felt like a lot of filler at the beginning, and this duology could have been one book. And so the only reason I can think for splitting this book and filling it full of so much fluff that was not necessary was the big old dollar, or money, whatever form of currency, you know, you want to think of as rubbing together. And so that really put a sour taste in my mouth, and you know, I'm not cool with that, to be perfectly honest. And so I don't know whether I'll pick up the second book or not. It actually irritated me that much. And so as a result, I gave it 3 stars, which isn't a bad rating, but I'm tempted to even bump it down to 2 just because I'm incredibly irritated and all I can think about is just money-hungry people. So, sorry. Then I read Nerd in Shining Armor by Vicki Lewis Thompson. This was one of the books that had been sitting on my interested Goodreads shelf since 2013. This is a contemporary romance where the two are stranded on a desert island. So I liked the nerdy guy a lot, but everyone else in the book was incredibly annoying to me for one reason or the other. So what happens here is Genevieve gets offered to go with her boss on a weekend of work. She already knows that it's not going to be work, it's going to be something else. And he's hot and sexy and whatnot, and so she just wants to go. And then, for some reason, this nerdy guy who's always liked her, for some strange reason, because I can't figure out why he would like her, decides to crash this party and do something, and so she's all upset with him, and then the plane the plane doesn't crash. Then things happen when they end up getting stranded, and it's like this big thing. And this could be very good, but Genevieve was annoying as anything. She was the complete dumb blonde bimbo. And I didn't enjoy reading about her. I didn't like her. she was a complete stereotype in a bad way. So yeah, I didn't like this book, and I gave it 2 stars. I really didn't like it. Then I read Love, Life, and the List by Casey West. This is a young adult contemporary, and this is about Abby, who is apparently a talented artist, and she gets rejected for an art show that she's not technically old enough to enter anyway because her work shows no heart. I guess you can tell I did not start February being very happy with my books. She also has a crush on her best friend, and it was okay. It was cute. It was okay. Casey West writes like adorable books. I appreciated that the parents were a bit involved, and I very much appreciate that the list didn't include having sex on it, because that seems to be like the biggest thing. So that I was grateful for. The rest of it, I mean, it was as you would expect. So, I mean, it delivered at the end. It's a 3-star book for me, but I think I'm almost done with reading young adult contemporaries for a while. Next, I read The Revenge of Lord Everland by Julia London. This is a historical romance novel, and this one I've had on my Goodreads shelf since like 2012 as being interested. This is the 2nd book in the Secrets of Hadley Green series. Julia London, I usually enjoy her books. This one I don't think was her best. I did not enjoy it as much. Boy, I am cranky this wrap up. Holy mackerel, I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, February, I was cranky in February. This is about Tobin and Lily. Tobin's father was hung for stealing the Countess's jewels. Lily is now the Countess, and she was the one who implicated his father as the one leaving the mansion in the night, and so then it was pinned on him. Tobin is just an awful human being, if you ask me. I did not like him. How you can think a 7-year-old child knows what in the world she's doing or seeing or is planning and that premeditating to ruin your life is absolutely ridiculous. And to hold a grudge against a 7-year-old is just stupid, as far as I'm concerned. I did appreciate that it did kind of turn around in the middle and she believed him, and things get better, but just like the anger in this book was just more than I could take for a historical romance novel. It was just not for me. I did give it 3 stars. I don't think I'm going to continue reading this series. I think there's other things that I'm going to like more. Then I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a young adult mystery novel, and this is the first in a series, unfortunately, because I really wish it wrapped up the whole story. I would have loved that. So this book is kind of like a dual story. You go back in time and in present time. This elite academy, very strange academy in Vermont, a boarding school, only accepts very interesting people in its doors, and Stevie Bell is our protagonist in this, and she gets into this school. She is a true crime aficionado, they call her, and she wants to solve the crime that happened in the 1930s that no one was able to solve, and that was the disappearance of the wife and daughter of the owner of this school. So, lots of stuff happens in this book. I found it very interesting. I still don't know who done it. Obviously, I don't know if it's a duology or a trilogy, which would be awful because it is cliffhangery. But she runs into a lot of things. There's an actual murder at the school in her time as well, and she does end up kind of solving that, but not even fully solving that one. This is a really good start to a series, but if you do not like cliffhangers, do not start reading this book until the other books are out. I'm just warning you. I will probably have to reread it when the other books come out, and I probably won't read the second until the third comes out. So it'll be some years before I get back to this, because I need to binge read this stuff. This cliffhanger stuff, I'm too old for that junk anymore. Too old for that. You gotta just give it to me. The thing is I thought this was very well written. I thought it was very well plotted so far. There wasn't filler, and so it can be a cliffhanger, otherwise it would have been a monster of a book. So I'm good with this. I gave it 4 stars. I am looking forward to the next books in the series. Then I read Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Jill Mansell. She is a chick lit author who I am trying to get through her canon of books, but this was another one that was on my shelf for many, 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 many years. So check, I got some more books off my shelf. This is a really, really good one for people who have not read Jill Mansell's books before, because if you don't know, her books tend to have a lot of characters and are more centered around towns and the interconnecting people in the town. So while the blurb may only talk about one couple that's going to get together or whatever the story is, there are usually many, down to the children, that are talked about. So sometimes they get introduced very quickly in the story, and it can get very confusing, and I actually have to write a cast of characters. But this one was very, very gentle. So this is a good place to start if you'd like to read her books. This book is mostly about Dexter and Molly and their relationship over a very long period of time, to be honest, over a couple of years. He buys a little cottage in this little town far from London. He's a playboy, working high, I don't know what his job is, I can't even remember, but making tons of money. He's rolling in dough, and he buys this little cottage as a getaway, and he meets his neighbor, and they instantly form a friendship. She lives there full time. Then Dex's sister dies and leaves him her daughter. So he decides he wants to change his life around and raise his niece, and no one thinks he can do it except for Molly. And this was a very good book. I enjoyed this one. This was a very good story, very heartwarming, funny. She writes very funny books, and I recommend this as a good place to start if you want to try reading her books. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read American Panda, which is a new release, another contemporary romance. This is by Gloria Chow. This is being hyped all over BookTube because of its diversity. This is about May, M-E-I. I don't even know how to say it. Isn't that awful? And she graduated early because that's what her parents had planned for her. She is Taiwanese American, and they send her off to college at 17. They want her to become a doctor. That's what she's supposed to do. The problem is she is a germaphobe and many other issues going on. So she would not make a very great doctor, and she is just finding this out and kind of trying to come into her own and become, get the guts to tell her parents, who have planned her life out for her as like the good Taiwanese American girl, that their plan is crap. Not only that, but they want her to marry a Taiwanese American, and she kind of falls for a Japanese boy, and that is apparently bad. This book was very, very good. Yes, this brought me back to the young adult contemporary and made me a little happier. There was a lot going on in this book, and she learns a lot about herself, learns a lot about her culture, because she doesn't even know much about her culture. And there was just so much interesting stuff in this book. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Oh. Did you need a hug? Did you need a hug? Yeah. All right. Can you let me finish filming, please? Can you let me finish? All right. Then is when I started my binge reading. Yeah. I started with Shock and Awesome by Camilla Schaefer. This is the fourth book in the Lexi Graves mystery series. These are, I mean, I can't really call them a cozy mystery because it doesn't really fit. Because there's also a romantic plot and, you know, more information about their life, and their lives kind of keep moving on too. Like, so I call it a chick lit cozy mystery or a cozy romantic mystery, maybe? Maybe that makes sense. I have not read one of these books since 2012, so it had been a while. This was probably not the one to restart with because I had forgotten a lot of what went on in the characters and things like that. And not only that, but it wasn't like the most happily concluded book in the series. But this is one about a con man who is conning rich women out of their money through a dating agency that caters to only rich people. And Lexi is a private investigator, and her boyfriend owns the agency, and her ex is a detective. So, and all of her family members are all in the police force, so it's very amusing. You got the funny mother who says outrageous things. They're Irish. It is a whole lot of fun. It's similar in vein to the Stephanie Plum mysteries by Jenna Ivanovich, only the love triangle aspect pretty much goes away by this book. By book 4, she's made her choice. So you've only got 3 books of love triangle. Then after that, the ex is around, but you kind of know she loves this one, so it's good. So I read that one. That one I only gave 3 stars just because I wasn't really pleased with the ending of it, and I was a bit confused, to be honest. The next book is Weapons of Mass Distraction. Love the titles. So that's book number 5. And in this one, Lexi has to go undercover to discover who killed a couple of people in her gym. One drops dead during spin class. She also is investigating with her best friend slash sister-in-law, almost sister-in-law, the case of wedding boutiques that are all being vandalized and all the dresses being stolen. So you could see where that would go. A lot of fun. I read book number 6, which is Laugh or Death. This one is about a man who comes to town to help them, who needs help from them in finding his missing girlfriend. And then there's also a second mystery with bars being stolen from. This one, I did give 4 stars, but I felt like people were being a bit stupid in this one. Lexi was being a little bit of an idiot because the guy who was investigating his girl being missing, it was like just very implausible. And the first place I went was some form of domestic abuse. And it takes them a really long time to be like, I wonder if it's some sort of domestic abuse because something's going on wrong here. Yeah, I'm just saying. So this one there was a little bit of stupid in it, but it was a good book. I enjoyed it. Then I read book 7, which is Kissing in Action. This one was fun because she has to work with finding a blackmailer of the hottest girl band around. And this doesn't take place over a very long time, but she gets, it's a very fun one because none of the girls in the band are like what they portray to the media, and so there's a lot of interesting entertainment background where you could see that this would actually happen. Like, they're all terrible people and they all hate each other even though their images are sweet and pure and in love, and you know, they keep finding more information about these girls, and oh my goodness, it was like, this one was pretty fun. And the last book that I finished in February was Trigger Snappy, which is book number 8. At the end of book 7, Lexi quits her job with her boyfriend, and tries to go out on her own, and she gets a client who thinks that she is being stalked and everyone thinks that she's crazy. And this one I really liked. I have to say, I knew who did it at the beginning of the book. I don't normally do that. I don't normally guess who did it. This one I did know who did it, but the ride was very good nonetheless. And I really do enjoy not only just the mystery, but I do enjoy the romantic aspect as well. So I gave all those books 4 stars with the exception of Shock and Awesome, which was the first one that I read in the series. And you will have to hear what I think about the last 3 books that are out when I wrap up March. So overall, read lots of books, thought it was a lot of fun. Beginning wasn't so hot, but I sweetened up by the end. So I hope you are all reading a great book, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.